Hello, everyone. Welcome to FC Live. I'm Jared with FundersClub. Really excited to have Brayton Williams here from Boost VC.
Thanks for having me. Hi, FundersClub world.
Absolutely. Really excited to discuss with Brayton a bunch of topics today, and we're getting some great questions coming in. This is a reminder that the point of FC Live is to hear your guys' questions from the audience, so please comment in the Facebook event. We'll ingest those questions and get them up for Brayton. Have some questions that have already come in, so thank you for those questions. I'd love to start off though, Brayton, just by talking about your background and getting a sense of you and kind of what brings you here today via Boost.
Yeah, so I guess 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I started Boost VC with my co-founder, Adam Draper, who was supposed to be here. Adam just had a child, so shout out to Adam, who might be watching, and his new daughter, Lila.
Lila's definitely watching. Hi, Lila.
And what Boost VC is, we're a startup accelerator focused on specific verticals in what we call sci-fi technologies. And what that kind of means is we have one main pillar of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, another pillar of VR, AR, and then another kind of broader bucket of what we call like sci-fi, and that's AI, drones, bots, space. We did an exoskeleton.
Amazing.
So in about 5 years, we do batches like the accelerator model. We're recruiting right now for our 10th tribe, as we call them. And for each tribe, it's a 3-month program. We bring in speakers, mentors, as a demo day. A unique thing about Boost is we actually provide housing to all of our companies.
Oh, wow.
So in San Mateo, we have 24 rooms across the street from our office. Fun fact, I also lived there for 2 years when I was getting Boost VC started.
So you ate your own dog food?
I went through the program for 2 years, and then I finally moved to San Francisco and got a little bit of a life. So we've done 200 companies in that last 5 years, so a lot of companies. We've seen a lot of entrepreneurs. The stages that we're looking at are 1 to 4 people teams, extremely early, idea to early revenue is kind of the sweet spot.
Awesome. And tell us the origin story. How did you guys decide to start Boost, or where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so actually it started from Adam Draper, my partner, who started angel investing about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yep.
FundersClub being one of those investments.
Yes.
And he started enjoying that process and wanted to do it more at scale.
Cool.
And kind of investing at scale at the angel kind of round looked like an accelerator. So the initial concept was just to do that. And we started very broad. But what we realized is we wanted to have like a focus on why people would come to us first.
Yes.
So at that point, there were probably 5 Bitcoin companies. You know, blockchain wasn't even a word that was thrown around.
Correct.
And cryptocurrency really wasn't. It was like Bitcoin, that was the only thing.
Right.
And there was Coinbase, which Adam actually angel invested in as well. There was like BitPay, and then there's probably 3 others that aren't even around today.
Yes.
So our first goal was just to double the amount of Bitcoin companies. And from that, we realized we built this great community of founders, like other entrepreneurs, corporates, investors wanting to learn a lot more.
Right.
So what we did was just replicate that on different verticals. So that's kind of the goal of Boost VC, is to make verticals of early technologies and kind of help grow an industry.
Amazing. And I think, I'm sure we'll get into this more later, but it seems like some of those early theses are starting to play out in a pretty major way in the market. But to be discussed, and I'm seeing some questions roll in already about the ICOs, et cetera. But I mean, taking even a step further back than that, Brayton, how did you personally get into startups at all, or kind of like what drove this interest for you?
So I studied finance in college, and with finance...
Where did you go to school?
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Awesome.
And with finance, there's like various ways you can go. So I did like an internship, corporate finance.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I basically took a lot of jobs to realize what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And then I landed on, okay, another one I will try after I tried wealth management, corporate finance, was startups. So I worked at a startup where I met Adam, that he started, called Expert Financial.
Cool.
And I just love the kind of scene of the founders, the early technology companies, and from there, it just seemed like I just wasn't bored.
Yep.
I was always interested, always getting to learn new things.
Yep.
And from there, so another funny story, most people don't know this, is the company Expert Financial actually went under.
Okay.
So the reason I was working with Adam was because he picked me up from that company, but it was also a good time because I didn't have a job at the time. So
right place, right time.
Right place, right time.
Very cool. And you've been doing Boost now, you said for 5 years. What's changed about your approach, or what have you guys learned in that time, if anything's changed, or what have you been able to double down on?
So one key learning that we had was when you're investing in early technologies. So one, you have the startup, which is early, and you kind of have to raise money and grow and win in a sector. But in an early sector, there is really no market yet. So you can't scale and grow like other startups. You have to be very patient and grow with the market. So one of the mantras we use at Boost VC is be the cockroach. Just don't die. Right. If you raise money, hold on to it. Right. Don't read TechCrunch and figure out how to scale. Just be around. We all believe that. So like cryptocurrency, we've seen it take a very long time. Yes. VR, we're seeing the same thing play out. The companies that win are the companies that will be alive. Very cool. So that was an important thing for us, is be the cockroach. Be the cockroach. Yeah, I think the market cap of Bitcoin is probably like $100 million when Coinbase raised its original financing. Yeah, it was low, and then obviously we've seen this and this. And very cool. So I'm going to pause there and say, again, please contribute your questions for Brayton. Let's jump into some of those questions now. Okay. Wow, we're twisting a knife from question one. You wrote that you bought Bitcoin at $27. I think it's now 100x that price as of today. But you also sold recently thereafter, buying at 27. Tell us about both of those decisions. So buying Bitcoin at 27, no one had heard of Bitcoin. You walk into any room, even in Silicon Valley, and you asked, do you know what Bitcoin is? Not a single person would raise their hand ever. So at that point, buying it was the craziest thing you could do. I actually did it because my brother was telling me about it, and he was studying computer science at Berkeley, and he was like, hey, this is some crazy thing. I really respect my brother, and he bought some for me. And at the point I was like, we'll see what happens. And then basically within a month and a half, it 3x'd. And as a finance and economics major, I was like, that doesn't happen. Right. So of course sell. Yes. So I sold the majority, and then it kept going to 1,200. And as it kind of oscillated on its way up and down. And it's never straight up. Yeah. So now I have not sold any Bitcoin since, and I'm not trying to time any market. I'm just putting in a little bit each week. Got it. And then the next question, which it sounds related, is, but you didn't repeat that quote-unquote mistake with Ether or Ethereum. Maybe tell the backstory of how Ethereum, you got involved, and kind of what your position is there. Yeah, so we had been in Bitcoin since late 2012, early 2013, and then Ethereum, a bunch of the founders, Vitalik, who's the main founder, leading that charge, started posting about kind of this new blockchain that had much more functionality than Bitcoin. And what was really interesting was that he got all developers really excited. Bitcoin was really hard to develop on, and Ethereum was trying to be that developer-friendly blockchain. So everyone in the office, since we house and give office space to all of our companies, everyone was talking about it. And usually you want to follow what developer interest is. So basically everyone in the office threw a little money at it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Come a couple years later, once they actually launched it, you could take your pre-sale wallet and access your Ether. Another interesting story about that is, and this is just a problem with all cryptocurrencies, is just the ease of use. I lost my password to my Ether wallet. And I spent 2 weeks trying to try every password in the book that I could remember. I had someone trying to brute force it with code. And at a certain point, brute force the private key, the 26. Brute force. No, so with the Ethereum pre-roll, you got to set your own password. Okay, you got to set your own password. So basically, you have this JSON file, and you could input the password. And so eventually, he came to me as like, I don't think it's going to happen. So then I tried a couple more things, and it opened. And I went and gave him a hug. It was a very big day. But that was when it was like, I don't know, $5 or so. And obviously we've seen that skyrocket, and we'll see what happens.
Certainly so. Okay, it's going to be interesting to look back on these times.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is, can you take us through what you look for in blockchain companies that you invest in? I'm assuming there's a specific emphasis on the word blockchain versus any sort of Bitcoin or crypto, but I'll let you kind of go whatever direction with that question that you like.
Yeah, so I'd say when we first started, again, we were looking at Bitcoin companies.
Yeah.
And within Bitcoin companies, I guess even a step back from that.
Yeah.
When we're looking at any company, at the earliest stage, it's the founder.
Yes.
And I know that's super cliche, but when it's 1 to 4 people teams in an early technology, everything's moving. As we've seen, Bitcoin became blockchain, blockchain became kind of Bitcoin again, Bitcoin became cryptocurrency.
Yes.
So the markets are moving, and you have to like be very adaptable to that. So I'd say the number one thing is by far the founder. I don't know if any founder we've backed that's been successful has stayed with the original concept. Got it. Usually the problem they're trying to solve is very similar.
Interesting.
But how you solve it has always changed. And then kind of with that story of, we were looking at Bitcoin. So within Bitcoin, early we were looking at like infrastructure companies, brokerages, exchanges, remittance companies, using Bitcoin as a currency to make money or to speculate.
Right.
Then it moved to blockchain.
Right.
Became a new talk about thing.
Yep.
And that was definitely more of using the blockchain technology as a rails.
Yes.
For one, you can either move money, or a lot of people were using it for bank kind of communication layer. Yep. Blockchain is a decentralized consensus mechanism.
Totally.
And people are basically trying to figure out what to use that for. Mm-hmm. The problem with the blockchain right now and using it for that is a lot of things can be done right now with databases extremely well. Right. So people had this great technology and they were trying to throw it on everything. Mm-hmm. One of our founders, who I really like, Lamar from Hydro, always says everyone is treating blockchain like hot sauce. Like, just going to make everything a little bit better.
I like that.
So I like that analogy. And then now we're in this weird phase, kind of in the like what to invest in or how you decide what to invest in. Yeah. Where now we have a new model that they aren't actual companies with shares and equity. They are token projects. Right. Which I'm sure we'll get into. Yes. So now as a VC, we're trying to figure out how do we best take advantage of this new phenomenon of tokens.
Very cool. So good segue. Robert asked us a question, which is, how is the relationship between a VC, a venture capitalist, and a blockchain company or a coin company different from that of an ordinary centralized company?
Mm-hmm. So I will separate blockchain companies and kind of Bitcoin companies historically, like the Coinbases of the world are still centralized companies. Yep. Now this new phenomenon again is the token projects. Right. And a lot of these projects most of them are just open source projects with a foundation. Yeah. So as a VC, again, we have to buy private shares of companies, and which makes it very hard.
Why is that, by the way, just for those who may not?
So our agreement with our investors say, this is exactly what you're allowed to buy. Yes. So we have to modify our documents with our investors to do anything. Got it. And I would say a lot of VCs right now are trying to figure out how to do that. Yeah.
What did your investors say when you brought them this concept? Like, what were their questions or what was their pushback?
I would say it was very easy. It was a very easy conversation. Yeah. A couple things. One is they obviously invested in us. Yeah. So they trust us with their money, and we think we have a good enough story to say this is where it's going. Another one is you just show someone the graph, and it's like, we want to get a piece of this. Whatever way that would have been.
Got it. And so then to summarize that all together, when you think about, to answer the original question or dig in a little bit more about the original question, when you think about as a VC, as an institutional investor, managing your investments in these tokens or token-based companies versus in what they're calling a more centralized company, although I might argue that they're all centralized companies. Like, how do you think about it from an approach perspective or from a day-to-day management perspective? Does anything change in your mind, or is it all kind of one and the same or different colors of the same spectrum?
I think a lot of due diligence has to occur. Yeah. So one is like a lot of due diligence has to occur because if we want to put our brand behind something
Right.
as one of these token projects,
Yeah.
a lot of them right now, I would say, are somewhat scammy and probably don't need to exist. And I would say buyer beware of a lot of token projects.
You heard it here first.
Whereas, so if they go out and do a public raise and people get involved and they screw those people over, our brand's associated with it. Whereas like a startup, you know, at the stages we're investing in,
Yep.
if they do something, like we're really the only ones affected probably.
Yes.
But on the diligence side, we look for great teams. This becomes a lot harder because they're distributed teams.
Right.
A lot of them are like core devs to projects, and they're all open source contributors. So no one works for a company per se.
Yes.
One thing too is this is all a massive experiment.
Right.
One thing I think is interesting is I truly believe in open source projects.
Yes.
And I think the smartest people gravitate towards open source. So this token infrastructure allows a business model for open source projects and an incentive to people to work on it.
Right.
So that's what I'm really excited about.
Right.
Is you know, our internet is built on open source software, and it has like very limited budget to
Right.
keep it up to date.
Right.
So I think this is a huge shift in which will benefit everyone.
Very cool, and I agree. And so on the topic of buyer beware, Kevin asked us a question, which was, every day it feels like another ICO, initial coin offering, is able to raise millions of dollars with little more than a white paper. We were talking about this before, but I think specifically you mentioned the danger of investing in a white paper only idea or an idea without code. But you know, for you as one of the few investors who publicly invest in cryptocurrencies or tokens, how does Boost VC evaluate in diligence which cryptos are legitimate versus the next pets.com?
Yeah. So the most important thing is, since we've been in this space for about 5 years,
Yep.
we've built a really strong network of others in the space, developers, other founders of projects, and we have it's a small enough community where it's very clear which projects are legitimate and which ones aren't. From our perspective, it's not super clear to the public which ones are good and bad. So that's like an unfair advantage I think we have to some extent.
Care to shed some light for our audience about, without revealing maybe any of the secret sauce, about how you parse? Is it pattern matching? Is it certain triggers that you're looking for?
It's really teams.
Yeah.
What I think some of the best projects do are if you wanted to start sometime the next generation token, ideation, come up with an idea, what the token's for, what the open source software is going to be, write some type of white paper, distribute it to the public, get feedback on it, and then you should have 3 to 6 months, if not longer, of building. You really should build something before you do a token sale. So I think some of the best projects are raising money before the token sale to kind of get the resources together before going to the public. I would beware of the ones who white paper sale.
And I think you've publicly come out and said that you're willing to invest pre-token sale as part of Boost, right?
Yeah, so that's what we're looking for, is the ones who want to just take time, build something, instead of race straight to token sale. And I know that's super appealing to people, is I can go out there and raise $10 million. Why would I take 100,000 from you?
Yeah. And how about this hackathon that you're working on with Coinbase? How does that relate to this?
Yeah, so we just did a hackathon with Coinbase. Coinbase released a new mobile app called Token.
Yep.
And it's an Ethereum-based messaging app. So money is integral to the messaging app.
Yep.
And you can easily build apps on top of that. And we're looking to back, or we're making an offer to back 2 of the winners out of the hackathon.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're looking everywhere for crypto companies. Of course, VR, AR as well. Yeah. But I spend most of my time right now on the crypto side. So
I guess one more question on that ICO kind of management initial coin offering. So we now have a question from Robert, which is asking, okay, if you as a VC, we talked about if you as a VC are involved pre-ICO, but now talk us through, like, what do you hypothesize governance will look like for these post-ICO, post-coin offering companies for you as a venture capitalist? Or what do you think novel approaches to corporate governance could look like in this world?
So I think governance is a huge issue right now in cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin's kind of the weird child here because there is no leader and no one, but that might actually be the feature of Bitcoin,
right.
is we can't figure out how to change it to save our lives, you know? But that might be really good. It's super impressive. We've built a piece of software that we cannot change.
Right.
Whereas Ethereum, you have the open source model, which is the benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
And that's Vitalik and probably his close group. So they move very fast.
Yeah.
It's still undecided whether or not that's good or bad. I think there's another interesting project coming out called Tezos, which actually does the governance on the protocol layer. So with your token, you can vote. So I think, again, everything right now is a big experiment. A lot of what I do is the pattern matching. You know, most VCs do that.
Yeah.
And right now, there's so many different projects that I think they're also fascinating that we can learn from all of them and kind of take the best from what's out there. You know, besides the couple big cryptocurrencies, all the other ones are like really cool, interesting R&D experiments. Not many of them have any use cases, but they're trying one unique kind of thing about decentralization or cryptocurrency or, you know, governance.
Right.
But what is the VC's relationship to the project? I think that's definitely kind of undecided. What cryptocurrency does is make it, you know, it's open to everyone. So we shouldn't have a bigger role than any other user.
Agreed. No preferred voting.
Yeah, we don't have liquidation preferences.
I want to pause there just to remind you guys you're watching FC Live with Brayton Williams. It's been an awesome conversation so far. Please continue to ask questions in the comments and we can get to them hopefully in the next few minutes that we have left. Next question from the audience is from Eli. Have you seen any new or novel applications of the blockchain in embedded devices or the Internet of Things space, the IoT space?
So we've definitely seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
The decentralized consensus mechanism, allowing me to send something to a device and it knows it's me and not someone else, is very cool in the IoT space. I can see this happening with cars. So instead of having a physical key or something, you can use your phone and you can never replicate what my phone has done. It's really early. You know, IoT is still really early.
Yes.
So when you add really early with real early, but that's what we look for.
Yeah.
It's just going to take a really long time. I think there's definitely a use case. A lot of people are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But nothing like currently in production today.
Cool. So transitioning a little bit to another topic area, focus area that you guys are looking at, Maria asked, you know, where do you think the biggest opportunities are today for companies in the VR space? As you mentioned, you guys were pretty early and active in VR and AR.
Yeah, I'd say the things we're most interested in right now are tools to create content. It's still very hard to make VR. So that's one. There's another which is like education. We're actually really big believers in like experiential learning. I think it's somewhat of a paradigm shift of how we will learn in the future. Instead of reading textbooks, obviously you experience something, and I would hope people can learn quicker with that.
Yeah.
I kind of use the story of, you know, Google put a bunch of information online and indexed it really quickly. VR allows you to put experiences online and index that really quickly.
Yes.
So instantaneous learning.
I recall once you sat next to LeBron James in VR as well.
Yes, and still one of the greatest days of my life.
Okay, I guess on the counter side, and the next question was, many people believe that we're past the hype phase of VR as far as investors are concerned. Do you agree? Are you relieved that we're past the hype phase, or do you think there's still froth in the VR and AR industries?
I think we're past a hype phase.
Yeah.
I don't know if there won't be another one.
Yeah.
You know, what really holds it back is not everyone has a VR headset.
Right.
Price point has to come down.
Yeah.
It's a very expensive piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Business models are still very unclear on how you're going to make money. And this is really why we tell our founders what we do: be the cockroach, stay around. You know, it's going to oscillate.
Yeah.
Just like cryptocurrency, but long term, we all know it's going to be a market.
Yeah.
So stick around. So I don't like to try to time the markets, but we're going to stay very consistent with our investments
So unpack that a little bit. Are you encouraging your founders to wait for some of the bigger companies, bigger hardware companies to introduce lower price point technology? Do you think other things will change in the industry between now and some point without asking the time? Like, where do you see the market moving?
Well, so I think we're growing.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't necessarily say we're any dips in the market. Maybe it didn't happen as quickly as people wanted, but headset sales are, going up every day. And some good reports have come out saying we're actually on the right track to do something.
Right.
Usually it was just the expectations were not met.
Unrealistic.
Which it happens with everything.
Yeah.
So I think we're still in a very good spot.
Got it. So beyond the areas that you think companies can innovate in, talking about education and others, what companies in the VR space are you most excited about is the next question from the audience.
Companies I'm most excited about. So I won't say companies. I think Peter Rojas from BetaWorks came in and spoke the other day, and he said something that I thought was really interesting. Everyone's trying to make VR experiences that you want to be in all the time, because we're comparing it to kind of desktop and phones where we're always on it. He said, make the best experience for 15 minutes. So I'm really interested in the companies that are making it so I jump into that headset and it gives me some of the best 15 minutes of my day. And you will want to do that day and day and day and day.
Very cool.
So a lot of that right now is content.
Right. Got it. And then I think this question probably comes from a VR founder. So help this founder flash forward into the future. What do you wish VR founders that pitch you and companies knew 6 months before they brought their companies to Boost VC? Right. So like what just generalized advice could you give someone who's thinking about getting to that next step of starting to raise institutional capital or go through an accelerator?
I would say know the market very well. A lot of what we spend our time on is we see a ton of deals. VR specifically, I probably see 400 to 500 deals a year. So we know the market very well. So you have to come in knowing not as much, but just know where you sit and stand out.
Yeah.
I would say the competitive landscape is usually something unknown to many founders.
Got it.
But what I really want to know is just why are you doing this and why are you not going to stop doing this? At the end of the day, we look for the reasons behind someone creating a company. Don't start a company to start a company. Start a company because you want to solve a big problem.
Right.
Or if it's a game, you want to make the best experience because that's all you care about. Right. Again, it's going to be a long road, but the people who don't give up are going to go far.
And just a couple of minutes left, guys. So if you have any last questions, please do get them in the comments. So if you started investing in VR and Bitcoin, kind of 2012, 2013 range, what industries or frontier technologies are you seeing now that are going to be that next cycle, right, for the 3, 4, 5 years out?
Great question.
Yeah.
So I would say we're still very early on both of the other ones.
Right.
But the couple of the other ones we're getting really interested in are space. So we've done a couple space deals. One's an open source software platform called CubeOS for satellites.
Awesome.
And we've done a couple actually rocket companies that do 3D printed rockets.
Wow.
Which is fascinating. And kind of another space is exoskeletons.
Right.
Looking in kind of the human augmentation. Our phone is like the best piece of hardware for human augmentation. It makes us all smarter.
Superpowers.
So what are the other things like that to some extent?
Right.
So we've made a couple investments in the exoskeleton space.
Got it.
Those are a little harder because a lot of them are hardware. And we typically like to invest in software companies that there's already a kind of foundation built. What's the platform for VR and AR?
Right.
VR specifically, the platform with the headsets.
Right. Why is that? What about companies attacking a software problem in an established or somewhat established infrastructure is attractive to you?
A lot of it's distribution.
Okay.
You need headsets before people can view this content. So we want the distribution channels to be somewhat resolved.
Okay. Oh, and it looks like a question just came in. So triggered from this point about frontier tech companies, are you seeing these frontier tech companies come from outside the United States, international founders?
That's a point I didn't bring up, which is I think 70% of our founders are international.
Awesome.
When we're looking at frontier tech, definitely if we're very specific on a vertical, we can't just do San Francisco Bay Area, especially with something like cryptocurrency. It's a very distributed place. So we take companies from all over the world, Latin America, Africa, Europe, Asia. So I think we have 35 different countries represented in our portfolio.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a great thing too, is we have this network of founders all over the world. So I'm looking forward to a lot of travel someday.
Awesome. Space travel.
Yeah.
So I guess one question then is, from the origin stories of these new frontier tech companies, are you seeing researchers moving out of labs and into startups? Or is there like a wall between research and industry? Like, who are the frontier tech founders that you're meeting? Where are they coming from?
Yeah, I would say all over the place. I mean, I don't know if we have a data set that says where they're exactly coming from.
Right.
A lot of them are PhDs.
Right.
I wouldn't say too many are coming out of research labs, although we have some of those. Many self-taught engineers. We typically go after the hacker, and they're just engineers by trade. We're a very technical group of people at Boost. So yeah, those people are just everywhere, lurking on the interwebs and writing code.
Very cool. Well, I think we're reaching the end of our time. So let's pause there and just say thank you again for all the amazing questions that you guys brought in. Really enjoyed speaking with you, Brayton.
Thanks for having me.
How can people reach you, Brayton?
So my email is just brayton@boost.vc if you want to email me. Twitter is great too, @BraytonKey, K-E-Y. I should be able to get back to you on either of those.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming in.
Thank you
all for the questions, and signing off FC Live.